this, but what is new with me, I've been breathing through my nose. For 22 years, I've breathed through my mouth, and I will tell you confidently that taking in that oxygen straight through the nose, that is like 91 octane. I can't tell you in terms of like inches or meters how it specifically benefits my physical performance, but let's put it like this. When I'm pulling in that oxygen through my nostrils, say if I was to normally be going for a long jump and I'm breathing through my mouth, I'd pull off that long jump. But now, breathing through my nose, that long jump turns into a triple jump. 91 octane, baby. Like I told you, I've been breathing out my mouth for 22 years, and I'm done with it. I'm done with it. It is not good for me, and I think why I insisted on sticking to that habit is because I didn't know why it wasn't good for me. So I decided to change to breathing through my nose. The hardest part about it was remembering to breathe through your nose, because after 22 years of breathing a certain way, you were more inclined to stick to that specific way, as detrimental as it may be for your health. And honestly, breathing should be one of those things that by the age of like 3 or 4, you just got down. Like, you shouldn't have to think about it. And when you do have to think about it, it feels counterproductive because it just doesn't feel natural. And it took me a couple of days, I'd say even close to a week, to really get over the just the weird feeling of pulling that oxygen in through my nostrils compared to down my windpipe. And once you start remembering how to breathe, it becomes a flurry of new sensations come onto you, especially when you start pulling in that whatever it is through your nostrils. The first thing I started to notice are the different aromas that I just have never really classified before when I was breathing through my mouth. Like the other day I was walking downstairs and I got hit straight in the face by that aroma of turmeric. And I didn't know exactly what it was, but if you haven't smelled some turmeric, I recommend going down to your local Jimbo's or whatever it is and get yourself a canister. It refines the palate. And I learned all of this while listening to Joe Rogan's podcast with James Nestor. And exactly by doing that, by keeping my ear to the wind, I was able to get the knowledge that opened my eyes and was able to make me see that I was living in an unhealthy way. I was able to experience something new even from that knowledge. That sense of turmeric. And the world, as much as we think that we've seen it all, we've seen every corner, what's behind every corner, once we are more willing to open our eyes to what we have no knowledge about whatsoever, what we may be ignorant to, once we acknowledge that ignorance is there, we begin to learn. We begin to see that the world has acres of new things you have not experienced, whether that be the taste of motor oil or the scent of turmeric. Do you know how that tastes? Do you know how motor oil tastes? Do you know how turmeric smells? I didn't know until a couple of days ago. And that's not like, if you asked me 3 weeks ago, what's something that is going to impress you in the upcoming next couple weeks, I would not have been able to guess the smell of turmeric. But by keeping my ear to the ground and just being open for all the information the world has to provide, I was able to pull off with a new experience. So I started off breathing through my nose as a way for me to improve my health, but it actually becomes me discovering the full capabilities of my fifth sense, smell. And it could be a shot to your pride when you come to realize that you've been doing something wrong almost all of your life. And I will admit, most people don't want to take that shot to their pride, so they insist on keeping up with that wrong habit. And it's a strength to be able to step out of your own way, to be able to look at your past and say, yeah, what I've been doing is not for my benefit. I might have to change things up. And that will come with acknowledging that you are ignorant to some things. Like when I sat down and I listened to that Joe Rogan experience, he was talking to this guy, James Nestor, about breathing. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, I know how to breathe. I'm going to listen to it because I respect Joe Rogan. I respect most of the guests he has on. But for the most part, I think I'm pretty capable of operating my respiratory system to the full extent. Turns out I was anything but capable of operating my respiratory to the full extent. My respiratory system, that is. And if I... Like, it might have been in the back of my mind that I do know what's going on with this, but if I had just closed my mind to the idea completely and just said, yeah, I know how to breathe, this is going to be a waste of 2 hours for me to listen to this podcast, I would have never got that information. So guys, whenever you're just refuting someone else telling you something, remember that you could learn from any moment, any person, in any moment, in any place. You just have to be willing to hear what they're saying. Being a good listener is just as important as being a good speaker. And in fact, one of my personal beliefs, you have to be a good listener to be a good speaker. Because if you're just speaking to speak, that kills the point of a conversation. Conversation is a two-way road. And so you have to speak. You're supposed to speak to relay information. You're supposed to speak to argue. Speak to agree. Speak to disagree. Especially when you're in a conversation with anyone but yourself. Yeah, if you're in a conversation by yourself, speak to speak because no one else is going to speak to you. But if you're in a conversation with a friend, listen to what they have to say and then react to what they are saying to you. Don't go into a conversation with what you're going to say already pre-formulated. Listen to what someone else has to say and then formulate your response. I'm telling you guys, a lot of the times it makes you come off as more intelligible because instead of spitting off something that may not have relevance, say you come into a conversation with a pre-formulated idea of exactly what you're going to say. And the person says something you don't expect them to say. They say something completely off topic, and you still say what you had pre-formulated prior to the conversation. There's no relevance to what you're saying, so you come off as an idiot. So speak to react, guys. Don't speak to just speak. And that has to do with being able to get out of your own way. I know that it can seem tough to a lot of people to change up how they've been living for maybe their whole life. Just like how I was breathing through my mouth through my whole life. I admit, like, it is still hard when I do find myself breathing out of my mouth to remind myself, hey, nostril work. 2 babies up here. 2 compared to 1. 2 is better than 1. And so I just started thinking about it that way, and yeah, it does seem easier to breathe through the mouth, but it's better to breathe through the nose. So just learn how to get out of your own way, guys. It may benefit you in the end, and you may walk away from it with something more than you expected. I just expected to pull away with bettering my health, not with the new 5th sense. But I got it. I got that 5th sense. So I'm here, baby. So guys, what's up, guys? Alright, guys, I'm Chance. Everyone has a podcast, so guess it's my fucking turn. I got 3 fully loaded cabooses. Cheers. Let's get this bitch rolling. But yeah, $200,000 a year. Right? That's we know where he's coming from. Go to the beach. Big booty Latina. Illustrating what's wrong in our society. Authentic, handmade, original Chance Cablay. I want humanity to stay on Earth. This is cheers.